Hi everyone, this is Unit 3, Segment 1 notes. And I just wanted to start out with this Cornell slide again. I just want to remind you how the best note-taking is done. So you take in the bulk of your sheet, if this is your paper, this is the borders of your paper, the bulk of the middle is going to be everything that is words on the slide. You will then write here, okay? And then along the side, you're going to put any main ideas, put any questions or diagrams or anything that's going to help you study. And then down at the bottom, it's nice to have just a big idea, like how does this fit together within the unit. All right, so it is Unit 3, cells. If you remember the organization of life, the levels of organization, it started out as atom, then went to molecule, then went to organelle, and then went to cells. Cells, this is where we're at right now. Last unit on macromolecules, we were at the molecular level. We're stepping it up, we're getting into the organelles and the cells. So that's where we're focusing. Chapter 7 will be covered completely in the book. These are the objectives. You do not have to write these down, but in the end, these are the benchmarks that you need to be able to walk away with and do after this unit. So you're going to be able to describe how cells function in a narrow range of physical conditions such as temperature and pH to perform the life functions, homeostasis and metabolism primarily. You're going to compare and contrast plant and animal cells. You're going to be able to relate cell parts or organelles to their actual function for the cell. You'll be able to explain the role of the cell membrane as a highly selective barrier, looking at how things move through it, and such. Okay. Vocabulary words. These would be great flashcards, but Robert Hooke, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, cell theory, prokaryote, and eukaryote. Of all three segments in this unit, this one is the shortest one. So we're going to start with a little history. Robert Hooke, 1665 is the setting, the year. And he was using a very, very, very archaic type of microscope, not what you're going to see in the lab. But he used this device right here. He sliced cork, super duper thin. Cork, by the way, is a plant. And he sliced it super thin and laid it out, and he looked at it through the microscope, magnified, and he saw these tiny little cells, these little chambers. He termed them cells. This is his actual drawing. So it's kind of cool to see that. You guys will be making drawings in the lab as well. Around the same time, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, 1674, he was also using an archaic microscope. You can kind of see a size reference right here, but this is what it looked like. Super weird. But he looked at pond water, lake water, and even rainwater, and he saw that there were tiny little critters moving around in there. And so he has the idea that there are organisms literally everywhere. And this image right here is showing some modern day drawings of some of the algae that grow in lake water. So he's just like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. Theodor Schwann, several years later, a couple hundred years later, in 1839, he also was integral in determining what's called the cell theory. He proposed that all animals were made up of these compartments, these cells. So he examined lots of different things. He was finding them in all of them. So along came the cell theory, which is going to come in a couple of slides. So what is a cell? A cell is the smallest unit that can be actually considered living. So if we look here at the schematic of levels of organization, you learned this already. We have atoms. Atoms make up molecules, so this would be the macromolecules that we studied last unit. Then we have these tiny little organelles that are part of the cell. Okay, so we are at this level. Cells working together make tissues, tissues working together make organs, organs working together make body systems, and then of course the organism and so on. But here is where our attention is going to be for this entire unit. So the cell theory, which we talked about Schwann being a very big part of, has three parts. Theory, remember, scientific theory has heavy weight. There's lots of evidence to support this. This is kind of a big deal. So the first part is that all living things are made up of cells. All of it. All living, all life. Okay? Everything alive that you can see around you has cells. The cells are the smallest unit of life. and that cells come only from other cells, okay, through what's called cell division. What I would suggest is in your notes making a diagram, especially if you're a visual learner. I would say cell theory and then bubble off, branch off these bubbles, putting this information in each bubble, okay? And what we have back here is a diagram of an animal cell. All right, there are two general categories of cells, you guys. And in segment 1, you have to know what they are. And I'm sure you've never heard of prokaryote, so you might as well just say it out loud, prokaryote, prokaryote. There are specific characteristics of prokaryote. These guys are small. They are single cell, they are simple. There is no nucleus, no central nucleus here, but it does have a wad of DNA, okay? It has a cell membrane and a cell wall, which you were going to talk about all these little organelles later, but it has both of these ingredients, keeping it protected and keeping a barrier between it and its surroundings. These are single-celled organisms, and they reproduce asexually, and if you remember what that means, it means they divide. Okay, they actually just divide, and 1 makes 2, 2 makes 4, and so on. Examples, bacteria. So prokaryote equals bacteria equals all of these things. On the flip side, we have also eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are you. You are a eukaryote. They're larger. The cells themselves are larger. They're much more complex. There's cell specialization, so we have specific cells that do specific jobs. Each of the cells has a nucleus, and inside the nucleus you can find the DNA, whereas if you recall, prokaryotes don't have a nucleus, but they do have DNA. Eukaryotes can be single cell, or they can be multicellular. Obviously, you are multicellular. And every cell has membrane-bound organelles. So these are all these colorful little things. This is one cell that you're seeing right here, and this is all the organelles inside of it. Examples of eukaryotes, you're going to find plants, animals, fungi, and protists. All kinds of life except for bacteria. You're going to need to know a reference to size. Prokaryotic cells are, you can see, are much smaller in size than a eukaryotic cell. Much bigger. And that is it. Concludes segment 1.